For essay 2 in this course, we're writing an evaluation essay, which means that you have to establish criteria in order to evaluate something. Now we're going to go over the list in a moment as far as what you can choose. But in general, you're looking at things like restaurants, video games, movies, football teams. But you have to establish criteria that can be used to evaluate any restaurant, not just the one you're looking at. Criteria to evaluate any video game, not just one specific video game. So you can't kind of just pick what you like best about it and tell me what's best about it. You have to think about what type of criteria that characteristic would meet that we could apply to other places, other games, teams, and topics that are the same as yours. So once you establish criteria, you're going to set out to evaluate your chosen topic, which would be that specific restaurant, team, video game, based on that set criteria. Now, something important to remember in this essay is that you are writing in third person, which means you're talking about viewers, patrons, fans, you're talking about people, individuals, teams, but you are not using first person, I, me, we, our, us, or second person, you, your, yours. Again, the purpose of using third person is to remain more objective and professional and to keep that more formal academic tone that we're looking for. Now, in total, you are writing 750 to 900 words, but that should be of your actual essay. So that does not include the MLA header, heading, or works cited page that you will be required to include because you do need 2 sources. So those are the highlights, but let's take a little closer look at this particular essay assignment. So in Module 1, we did a rhetorical analysis. So the idea here is that we're going to take the skills we learned from studying other writers and or from performing those rhetorical analysis and looking for those strategies, and now we're going to do a little more critical thinking. We're going to take it that step further, and we are going to evaluate something. So again, you are making an argument of evaluation, which means in the end you're telling me that something is the best movie, the best restaurant, it is a worthwhile video game. If I agree with the criteria that you have set forth, then I should root for this football team, that type of thing. So you are making an argument. You're just not using first or second person. You're basing everything on that set criteria. Okay, so again, looking at something that you could use to evaluate any restaurant, any video game, any movie, that type of thing, and then choosing one specific restaurant, video game, movie, or football team to evaluate using that criteria. Chapter 10 talks more about this, but again, in general, you're telling me why something is good, bad, helpful, not helpful, positive, negative. In a way, you are trying to convince your readers to go to this restaurant or not go to this restaurant, to play this video game or not play this video game, but you're doing it based on the idea that this criteria makes this specific thing good, bad, valuable, the best, that type of idea. So what in the world does this look like? Just kind of briefly going over it. If I were writing this evaluative essay, I would choose to write about my favorite movie. So I would choose my movie. I would probably choose the Pixar film Up because it's a really good movie. Every time I see it, I still think it's a good movie. So maybe I would write about it. Then I would need to establish criteria. And again, I'm looking for criteria that I could use to evaluate any movie. So maybe I provide the kind of general, but yet still specific criteria that the best movies provide the following: an emotional catharsis, an engaging plot, and an unexpected twist. Right? Again, they're kind of general because I'm not telling us exactly what an engaging plot means. That's something I would explain in my paragraphs, but I am talking about a specific criteria that I do expect movies to meet. I expect them to have plot that is going to engage viewers in some way, and again, that's something that I would explain in my paragraphs. right? Once I set this criteria for an emotional catharsis, engaging plot, and unexpected twists, I would need to write a thesis statement that reflects my evaluation of Up the movie, and that's based on this criteria. So maybe my thesis statement looks something like Pixar's film Up is a must-see for anyone who agrees a good movie provides viewers the experience of an emotional catharsis, an engaging plot, and unexpected twists, right? So keeping it pretty simple. But again, these are criteria that I could use to evaluate any movie. So I might also write an essay that talks about how The Meg is a must-see for anyone who is looking for a movie that provides that emotional catharsis or that engaging plot, unexpected twist. I might write about the movie It. I might write about the older movie White Christmas and whether or not they meet this criteria or don't. And definitely if you choose criteria that you think makes a movie good and you're writing and maybe I find out that The Meg does have an engaging plot, it has a couple unexpected twists, but I'm not really seeing an emotional catharsis, then that's something I need to address. But I can still explain to my readers that the movie is still valuable despite not meeting the criteria that I originally set. Also, if I'm writing my essay, I would probably just change my criteria because these are only 3 that I provided here. There are tons of different ways that you could write about movies. There are tons of different types of criteria that you could set forth. So really think about what do you look for in a movie, in a restaurant, in a football team, whatever it is that you end up choosing, and try and base that criteria around that. But again, it's got to be something that can be applied to other movies. I can't have part of my criteria as Up is a must-see for anyone who wants to see the talking dog Doug, because the talking dog Doug isn't going to show up in The Meg or It or White Christmas. All right, getting back to what the rest of my essay would look like. I have my thesis statement. So once my thesis statement is written, I would need to provide a brief summary in that introduction, just kind of giving the highlights of what is in this movie. Now, as you're providing your summary, really think about what you see in a movie trailer. So you want to give readers enough to understand what they need to know about this movie in order to follow your explanation of how the movie meets the criteria. But if at all possible, you don't want to give everything about the movie or the restaurant or whatever it may be that you are writing about away. You want to leave some bit of information for them to find out on their own when they do experience this. Now again, I'm talking about a movie, so this is more important where a movie is concerned because you don't want to ruin a movie for someone. If I'm writing about a restaurant, most of the time we don't want to hold anything back when we're writing about a restaurant because we want to know everything about the restaurant. We don't want any surprises when we go out to dinner. So there is some difference there, but basically kind of keeping it as a need to know. So what do your readers need to know? And if it's not necessary for the sake of this essay, then we probably shouldn't be talking about it. All right, once I've written my introduction, I've summed up my movie a little bit, and then I provided my thesis statement. I need to go about explaining how the movie meets the specific criteria. Now, for this hypothetical essay that I am writing, I would use my first body paragraph to talk about how Up meets the criteria of providing an emotional catharsis. And I would probably use one paragraph each for each criterion because I have several points that I would like to talk about as far as my criteria. I could spend a good bit of time talking about emotional catharsis, a good bit of time talking about engaging plot and unexpected twists because I know examples I would want to bring in, and I would want to make sure that I spent enough time proving my point. So again, that's me. I would want one paragraph for each because I know I have enough to say there. Other times you're going to find out that maybe things kind of go together or you don't have as much and you need to combine some paragraphs, but definitely making sure that you have paragraphing and that you have topic sentences to go with those paragraphs. So going off of the idea that my second paragraph and that first body paragraph would be talking about emotional catharsis, I would set out to write a topic sentence that connects to my thesis statement and kind of sums up what my readers will find out in that paragraph. And that topic sentence would be the first sentence in that paragraph. So for example, my topic sentence might say something like, through a well-crafted story and visual elements, Up provides viewers with an emotional catharsis that will make them cry, laugh, and hold their breath throughout the movie, right? Again, still, it's pointing us in a direction, but it's not giving everything away. So once I provide this topic sentence, I then go on in that paragraph to explain my statement and to provide evidence from the movie or other sources to support that statement, right? Again, these are just examples. You have some flexibility in how you evaluate your topic, but do make sure that you are establishing criteria and using that to evaluate. Do not focus on the rhetorical strategies that we looked at in our last essay, but please do make sure that you are establishing criteria that can be applied to any topic in that category. So again, if I choose a movie, my criteria should be able to be applied to any movie, not just the one movie I want to discuss. I'm just going ahead and I'm laying it all out there to you. If you don't establish a criteria, your evaluation is not going to be effective, because pretty much you're just going to end up just telling us about the movie or about the restaurant or about the football team, which, even though that's interesting, that is not the purpose of this essay. All right, so again, to evaluate your topic well, make sure that early in the beginning, really best place is the introduction. Go ahead and provide an objective summary, which means we're not giving our opinion of it. We are giving factual information about it, even though you are making an argument based on your opinion of whether or not this topic meets your criteria. So make sure you give us a little bit of summary, really just kind of enough to know background information and that need to know information, again, before you lay out your criteria for your evaluation in that thesis statement. And then the rest of your essay should provide support for how your topic meets that criteria. And finally, give us a conclusion at the end of your essay that sums up all of your points, kind of reminds us of what we're supposed to take away from this essay, and just ties everything together nicely. Right? You got another example of how you might organize the essay here. I will leave that for you to look at on your own. We also have your suggested topics down here on the assignment page. You can see you have several. A movie is the first one, so you can see that's kind of why I use that as my example. But you do have 11 different examples. Notice number 11 is an essay or an article from your textbook that you have not used in another assignment, so be sure to make note of that specification there. And then also note that if you decide to choose something else, you do need it pre-approved. Please do not write on an unapproved topic. You will not receive credit. You will receive a 0. So make sure that you discuss any topics that are not listed with me beforehand. Right? For this essay, you do need 2 sources. If you're writing about an essay, book, movie, something like that, then that should be one of your sources. So do make sure, again, that if you write, let's say, on a movie, that you do have that movie on hand, and that you can document it in your works cited and in your in-text citations. All other sources should be from the York Tech database or a reputable news source or an industry article. Sources from Wikipedia, Ask.com, Quora, and other places like those will not be accepted, and you will not receive credit for having sources at all. Again, if I'm writing an evaluation of a movie, I would use my actual movie as a source, so I have to have access to that copy. I might also look for an article on the database that outlines characteristics of a good movie that maybe regular movie critics or professionals consider when they're rating or evaluating other movies. Another option would be to look for a newspaper or magazine article that discusses the movie I am writing about. All right. As always, everything should be in MLA format. Your essay should be properly formatted with that heading, header, in-text citations, works cited page. You do have an MLA checklist, and you also have an MLA template and common source citations, where I'm kind of keeping track of things that I'm seeing students use a lot. The MLA template has everything from font and spacing, heading, header, all the way down to showing you how to indent paragraphs. Submission guidelines. Your essay should be a document, a PDF, rich text file, something that our D2L Dropbox will accept. Due dates are all listed on our semester schedule, and you do have a rough draft coming up. I apologize if you find rough draft misleading, but again, if you remember my news announcement from Essay 1, our rough drafts are really working drafts, and you should always work to submit your very best work. The better your draft, the better the feedback you're going to get from me and from your classmates. So we want to make sure that it is as good as we can get it so that I can give you the best feedback. If you would like to have your draft read for specific grammatical errors, definitely try and get in contact with a tutor or the ACT Center in the library. Hopefully that all makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to reading your drafts.